this area, the presence of wild boars is no longer a rare occurrence. Local authorities have repeatedly documented their approach toward farms and have even issued recommendations for population control to limit the growing damage. When the site was surveyed, all signs indicated that the situation had gone far beyond normal levels. The ground was torn into long strips, and the forest edge was covered with overlapping tracks of both adults and juveniles. A clear picture of an organized intrusion. The first step was not setting traps, but reading the terrain. An open patch of land was selected directly along a familiar movement route, with a line of trees behind providing natural cover and enough open space in front for the herd to enter without suspicion. This was not just a convenient location, it was the intersection of habit and opportunity. Once the location was determined, the installation process began. Steel posts were driven deep into the ground, forming a solid and stable frame. The edges of the mesh were secured tightly to the ground, eliminating any chance of being pushed up from below. Every small detail was carefully inspected. A single gap could cause the entire system to fail within minutes of chaos. After completion, the trap door was left open. The next phase was to place bait and wait. Cameras captured the moment a mature wild boar approached. It moved slowly, stopping several times to scent the air before stepping inside. There was no rush, only caution. When the right moment came, the mechanism was triggered. The net dropped quickly, cleanly, and precisely. The animal reacted instantly. Turning to find an escape, but every direction was blocked. Although only one individual was captured, this test confirmed that the structure functioned exactly as designed. It was a critical validation step before scaling up. Once the system was deemed stable, more traps of the same design were deployed in areas showing the highest levels of damage. Each location was adjusted to fit the terrain, but the core principle remained unchanged. Place the trap along established movement routes and create a sense of safety before activation. The nets were left open for several nights, allowing the herd to develop a habit of entering and exiting without suspicion. Everything unfolded in silence and patience. In the eastern sector, thermal cameras began detecting movement. A few individuals appeared first, entering the trap area as if it were routine behavior. They fed, moved around, and gradually ventured deeper inside. When the number inside reached an optimal level and no individuals remained outside, the signal was triggered. The net closed in an instant. The sound of heavy footsteps pounded against the ground, dust rising under infrared light. Solid bodies slammed into the mesh edges, creating powerful vibrations. In the first few seconds, everything descended into chaos, but the structure held firm. Multiple adult individuals were contained within. Inside was a herd of mixed sizes, from fully grown adults to juveniles. The ground beneath had been completely torn apart, revealing how intense their attempts to escape during the night had been. They constantly turned, reacting to every small sound. The handling team did not approach hastily. A safe distance was maintained. The net was carefully inspected, The entire process followed a pre-established plan. What matters is not the number of animals captured, but how the problem is addressed. If individuals are removed one by one, the rest of the herd will quickly adapt and return. In many rural areas, wild boars initially appear as a minor nuisance, but over time, their numbers grow rapidly, the damage spreads, and the ecosystem begins to lose balance. Fields are torn apart, crops destroyed, and the risks to humans become increasingly evident. At that point, control is no longer optional. It becomes necessary, and it must be carried out properly and at the right time.
In many rural areas, wild boars no longer appear at random. They return in a familiar pattern, tearing through fields in a few hours, then disappearing and leaving behind damage and unease. The biggest mistake is treating those first signs as minor. Once they find a food source, they remember it and keep coming back, turning the land into a regular route for the whole sounder and making the damage worse over time. Many people react too slowly because the early damage is scattered and easy to dismiss. A few crushed rows of crops or a corner of a field torn up often does not seem serious enough to raise alarm. But after only a few nights, the destruction grows quickly and begins to threaten an entire harvest built over months. That is why wild boar control is no longer just a response. It becomes a necessary step to break the return cycle before it gets out of control. Wild boars do not move at random. They move by habit and by what feels safe. They quickly learn when people are absent and which routes carry the least risk. That is why half measures rarely work. They only make the animals adjust briefly before returning again. To control them, the conditions that make the area attractive have to change. Once that habit is broken, the cycle of destruction can truly end. Because of that, many trap systems are now used for more active control without direct confrontation. Modern traps are not just catching devices. They also reduce conflict and are safer than chasing animals through the night. Their effectiveness comes from being placed in the right spot at the right time along the herd's travel route. When used properly, traps reduce losses and help farmers regain control. One important lesson is that constant pressure does not always bring better results. Wild boars that survive often learn quickly, remember danger, and change their behavior, becoming even harder to control. That is why it can sometimes be better to stop chasing them and let the herd return to its natural movement pattern. At that point, observing trails, fresh rooting marks, and the meeting points between forest and field can reveal the exact path used by the whole group. Once the travel route is identified, the trap system can be placed in the right position. In areas close to homes, round steel corral traps are often preferred because they create an enclosed control zone large enough to hold the whole herd while limiting panic. The circular design also reduces weak points and makes it harder for the animals to force their way out. Trap placement must stay discreet and be based on real behavior, from the forest edge to the field entrance, not on guesswork. The bait itself is usually very simple, but the way it is placed is what matters most. The goal is not to lure in just a few animals, but to draw the entire herd deep into the control area. This stage requires patience, because a single cautious boar can make the whole group turn away. For that reason, the acclimation phase is even more important than the moment of activation, allowing the herd to treat the site like a familiar feeding spot and lower its guard. The most important moment comes when most or all of the herd has moved fully inside. At that point, the trigger system closes the exits almost at the same time, removing any chance of escape. This method controls the threat right where it appears, instead of sending a panicked herd into residential areas or scattering it into smaller groups that are harder to manage. Success is measured not only by how many are caught, but by the accidents prevented and the crops protected. For farmers, controlling wild boars is not an extreme act. It is a necessary measure when the boundary between human land and nature has been crossed too many times. They understand that wild boars are part of the ecosystem, but without control, the damage will affect both production and safety. That is why a trap placed in the right spot at the right time is not meant to fight nature, but to preserve balance over the long term. In the end, effectiveness does not come from how modern the trap looks, but from the ability to read behavior and choose the right moment. When control is based on observation and positioning, the results become more stable. Success sounds like silence, no more movement on the cameras, no more damaged fields, and residents finally sleeping through the night. If you found this useful, leave a comment and do not forget to follow for the next strategies.
In a small village in the southern United States, the nights are no longer as quiet as they once were. Wild boars have begun to move in, tearing up fields, bending wooden fences, and leaving fresh tracks right beside the homes where people live. But this time, the villagers chose a different approach. Instead of reacting the old way with scattered and short-term measures, they made a new decision together, to build a shared control system for the entire village. This system was designed to guide the movement of wild boars and reduce long-term conflict with wildlife. This time, the question was no longer, how many wild boars can we catch? But how to ensure the entire village could sleep peacefully again. The biggest change was not the equipment, but the mindset. The goal of the system was not to catch as many boars as possible, but to break their habit of moving toward the village. The focus shifted from reaction to prevention. Instead of placing traps in areas already heavily damaged, control structures were positioned in transition zones, places where wild boars usually slow down when moving from the forest toward farmland. Here, they reduce their speed, observe their surroundings, and assess the environment before choosing their next direction. These are the critical points in their travel routes. Even a small change here can influence the movement of an entire herd. For that reason, each structure is not considered a separate trap, but part of a broader control network surrounding the village. Effective control begins with strategy, not tools. Once the system was established, residents began using bait to attract the wild boars. During the early stage, no traps were activated. Everything remained unchanged for several nights, allowing the boars to approach, observe, and gradually become familiar with the structures.
Come on. Load up. Dusty. Come on. Come on.
The cameras installed were not meant to count animals, but to track how they move, how long they stay, and how the group responds to the environment. This data helps managers understand wild boar behavior and make decisions based on observation rather than guesswork or instinct. By avoiding rushed intervention, the system operates according to natural behavior instead of forcing outcomes. When animals do not feel threatened, their true behavior becomes visible. There is no sudden blockade and no aggressive driving away. Instead, subtle adjustments gradually reduce how often wild boars move deeper toward the village, guiding them back to their natural areas. For the wild boars, these are simply different choices within their environment. But for humans, it is a way of guiding behavior without increasing stress or unnecessary risk. The entire system functions as a unified structure, driven by data, timing, and coordination between people. A system is only truly effective when every part moves in the same rhythm.
Yep.
By the next morning, the village slowly returns to its familiar rhythm. There are no new tracks on the ground and no new damage to fields or homes. Life begins to stabilize again.
Go.
In wildlife management, long-term solutions rarely come from direct confrontation. They come from understanding animal behavior, using data, and applying responsible guidance strategies. Peace does not come from how many animals are captured in a single night, but from creating an environment where people and nature can coexist without conflict.
There you go. Yep. Yep. Let's go. Yep. There you go.
If you found this story interesting, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel to explore more real stories about life and nature.
African swine fever, or ASF, is an extremely dangerous virus for both domestic pigs and wild boars, and what makes it especially alarming is its ability to survive for a very long time in the environment. In cold conditions or in meat products that have not been properly processed, the virus can remain alive for hundreds of days, silently extending the risk of large-scale transmission. Although ASF does not pose a danger to humans, it is a serious threat to the pig industry and the global pork supply. The virus can spread through direct contact between wild boars and domestic pigs, through contaminated meat products, as well as through polluted environments. Because of how quickly it can spread and its impact on entire herds, whenever a suspected outbreak appears, specialist teams must immediately arrive in protective gear to control the site, prevent the risk from spreading further, and protect biosecurity in the surrounding area. For that reason, the damage in my uncle's field was no longer just a story of crop loss. When wild boars began appearing in large numbers around the land, the danger was not limited to rows of corn being torn apart, but also to the possibility that they could become a link carrying disease closer to livestock areas. A herd of wild boars passing through the farm could leave behind not only tracks, mud, and trampled crops, but also the fear of silent transmission that the human eye cannot see. That is why we could no longer keep reacting in a piecemeal way, dealing with the problem one night at a time, and instead had to move toward a more systematic management approach, where every step, from observation and movement control to trap deployment, had to serve a larger purpose: protecting crops, protecting livestock, and reducing biosecurity risks across the entire area. After completing the risk assessment and setting the traps, we moved into the stage that required the most patience: baiting. We used clean fermented corn, a scent that strongly attracts wild boars. Keeping the bait point consistent over multiple nights helped gather the whole herd into a predictable movement pattern, while also reducing environmental disturbance and limiting the risk of them spreading out to other farms. By the third day, they still stood at a distance, sniffing cautiously. By the fifth day, the boldest ones finally began to move closer and tasted. We kept watching until the 10th day. After several nights without detecting any danger, their level of caution gradually dropped. They kept coming back again and again, slowly treating the place as a safe feeding spot. And when the wild boars had lost most of their caution, the trap system also entered a ready state. That night was the decisive moment. Images from the cameras were transmitted live to the monitoring center, while we relied on the terrain and the size of the herd to choose the right moment to activate the trap. And along a narrow trail, a leg snare had been set at exactly the point where a wild boar usually stepped. This was not the kind of trap meant to hold an entire herd, but a method designed to target single individuals that broke away from the group or moved through a tight passage. After a long wait, one wild boar slowly advanced along the familiar trail. The moment its front leg touched the exact spot, the trap instantly tightened and held it in place. The whole moment happened very quickly, bringing many days of observation and waiting for the right time to an end. The full herd control strategy had finally proven effective. The next morning, the entire handling process would be carried out humanely and in full accordance with biosecurity standards. Protecting the environment, livestock, and human safety always remains the top priority. Because the ultimate goal is not just to stop immediate damage, but to build a long-term management system, carry out responsible population control, and maintain ecological balance. That is the sustainable solution for protecting crops and moving towards safer coexistence between humans and nature.
Over $50,000 worth of crops in Texas were destroyed overnight under the hooves of a massive wild boar herd. Now, the largest trap ever set is ready. Will they manage to catch the entire herd in one go, or will everything continue to be destroyed before the farm is saved? This video documents the entire process of setting up the 30-foot diameter circular trap to capture an entire herd of wild boars. This is a very large number of boars, and if successful, it will capture a significant amount. This is the largest trap the farmer has ever set. The goal is to catch at least 30 boars at once. If the entire herd isn't caught, the remaining ones will become wary, and it will be harder to trap them the next time. This all stems from the fact that this 500-acre farm has suffered significant losses. In Texas, wild boars are no longer a rare sight in a few remote farms. They appear everywhere, from the dry slopes in the west, cotton and cornfields in the central, to the dense forested riverbanks in the east. Deep footprints in the wet mud are becoming more common. It's not just one or two wandering boars, but entire herds moving at night. Texas is now considered the epicenter of the wild boar crisis in the U.S., with over 2.5 million boars, nearly half of the wild boar population in the country. Texas wild boars are actually a mix of different breeds. Escaped domestic pigs and wild boars imported from Europe for sport hunting many decades ago. They are heat-resistant, good at finding water, and can eat almost anything. An adult boar can weigh between 200 to 660 pounds. Large boars with broad shoulders and thick fat layers can easily knock down steel fences if the structure is not sturdy enough. They live in herds, called sounders, consisting of sows and piglets. A herd can have anywhere from 10 to more than 30 members. Mature boars typically live alone, only joining the herd during mating season. Wild boars are mostly nocturnal, especially in areas with high hunting pressure. Their sense of smell is extremely sharp. Even the smallest change in smell or sound can cause the entire herd to change direction. Wild boars can carry dangerous diseases like brucellosis and leptospirosis, posing threats to livestock and humans. Traffic accidents involving wild boars are not uncommon, especially on rural roads at night. If left uncontrolled, these aggressive wild boars will continue to devastate farmland. To combat this, Texas allows year-round wild boar hunting on private land without seasonal restrictions. Control methods include large cage traps, remote-controlled corral traps, night hunting with night vision goggles, and even controlled helicopter hunting on large 1,000-acre farms. A 4-gauge steel circular trap was built like a solid fortress. The circular design creates an open space, encouraging the entire herd of boars to confidently walk in. The 8-foot steel gate, weighing 150 pounds, is connected via LTE and can be activated remotely via phone. The trap is set at an intersection. The steel gate is carefully barricaded to prevent the herd from escaping and is secured by T-shaped steel posts driven 90 centimeters deep to withstand the push of mature boars. Every day, about 90 kilograms of corn is scattered. The gate is left open for 3 to 5 nights to allow the herd to familiarize itself with the trap. When the infrared camera confirms the entire herd is deep inside, the gate is activated from 6.6 kilometers away via a silencer. The reason I do this is that there are other boars inside the trap, and once the gate closes, there will be no way out. As a result, 32 wild boars were trapped with an estimated total weight of over 2,500 pounds.
Just start in the back and work your way forward. So keep running in a straight.
A silent war is unfolding across the vast fields of Texas. Giant wild boar herds frequently attack farms, disturbing the land, destroying crops, and causing tens of thousands of dollars in damage to farmers. These animals are not only strong, but also extremely intelligent, making previous control measures nearly useless. In response to this growing threat, Texas farmers have implemented an audacious solution, the largest trap ever installed in the region. But the big question remains, can this giant trap stop the destruction caused by wild boars? Can they halt the invasion, or will they watch their fields continue to be destroyed? It all began with the increasingly severe damage to farms. A large portion of Texas's farmland has been continuously affected. Crops have been uprooted, and irrigation systems destroyed after wild boar herds attacked. What was once considered a rare occurrence in remote rural areas has now become a widespread issue across the state. Wild boars not only damage crops and the environment, but also carry dangerous diseases, such as African swine fever, ASF, foot and mouth disease, and respiratory diseases, which can quickly spread to domestic pigs and other wildlife. ASF, for instance, can wipe out entire herds, severely affecting the livestock industry. In addition, wild boars also carry bacteria like Salmonella and E. coli, which can spread through the environment or livestock. Controlling the disease spread caused by wild boars is becoming a major challenge, requiring stricter preventative measures. When threatened, wild boars can become aggressive and attack anyone who invades their territory, especially mature males during breeding season. This poses a danger to farmers, hunters, and workers in areas inhabited by wild boars. Moreover, traffic collisions with wild boars are becoming increasingly common, causing property damage and posing a risk of injury to vehicle operators. Managing wild boars in densely populated areas is essential to protect both human lives and property. To cope with the increasing pressure from wild boar herds, the Texas authorities have implemented a range of flexible control measures. These methods range from small traps to using helicopters or hunting boars. Among these methods, the steel-framed round traps are considered one of the most effective. The trap structure is made from reinforced 4-gauge steel, forming a solid barrier akin to a small fortress in the field. The trap's door is about 8 feet wide, approximately 2.4 meters, weighs around 70 kilograms, and is enormous in size. is connected to a remote control system via mobile networks, allowing the trap's door to be activated remotely from a phone.
Ante
The
esta
trap's
situación,
location is
muchos
also carefully
propietarios de
calculated,
granjas se han visto
typically
obligados
placed near
manadas
wild
enteras.
boar migration routes, especially near water sources or areas where they frequently forage. The trap's fencing is reinforced with T-shaped steel posts driven nearly a meter into the ground, sturdy enough to withstand the force of adult wild boars, which can weigh several hundred kilograms. For several consecutive days, corn is scattered inside the trap to attract wild boars. Each day, up to 90 kilograms of bait is used. When the infrared cameras detect that the entire boar herd has entered the trap, the operator will activate the door remotely. Within seconds, the heavy steel door crashes down, completely trapping the boars inside. This method has been successful, with more than 30 wild boars, estimated to weigh over a ton in total, being trapped inside. This is considered one of the few methods capable of capturing the entire herd at once, rather than just a few individuals.
Hey there.
The call came at 6 a.m. A farmer said that his entire field had been torn up in just one night. He explained that the newly planted soybean rows had been uprooted everywhere. The soil turned into long furrows, as if a tractor had passed through in the dark. He was certain that the wild boars had returned. I quickly gathered my equipment and headed to the farm on the edge of town. When I arrived, the tracks across the field told the whole story. For me, this was not an unfamiliar sight. After many years working in wildlife control teams, I know that once a sounder of wild boars begins returning to a feeding area, the damage can escalate very quickly if it is not handled in time. At first, we decided to try a medium-sized steel cage trap. This type of trap is often used when only a few wild boars are suspected to be active in the area. The frame was about 2 meters long and a little over 1 meter wide, strong enough to hold fully grown animals weighing dozens of kilograms. Inside, we placed fermented corn mixed with barley. The smell of the mixture is strong enough to attract wild boars from quite a distance. After checking the drop door mechanism, we left the area and allowed the cameras to record everything that happened during the night. In the recorded footage, the wild boars appeared from the edge of the forest. They moved slowly forward, sniffing the ground as they approached. One large animal stepped inside first, and the others followed one by one. Eventually, several wild boars were inside the trap, but in later clips, many more could still be seen circling outside before disappearing back into the forest before sunrise. Looking at those images, I realized the small trap was solving only a small part of the problem. Once wild boars become familiar with a food source in an area, they usually travel in large groups. If only a few are caught, the rest will return and the damage will continue. So we decided to change our strategy. The next day, a large corral-style trap system was installed in an open area near where the boars usually passed. Steel posts were driven into the ground to form a circular enclosure dozens of meters wide. A steel mesh fence nearly 3 meters high was secured around it to prevent the animals from jumping out. Two one-way doors were installed at the entrance. When a boar pushed the door inward, the hinge mechanism caused it to swing shut behind it. Instead of placing bait in a single spot, we scattered fermented corn along a trail leading from outside the trap into the center. This method helps the animals gradually become comfortable with the structure without feeling forced. During the first few days, we simply left bait around the area so the boars could move in and out freely. Infrared cameras recorded their movements every night. With each passing night, more animals appeared. It became clear that the herd had started treating the area as a regular feeding ground. By the fourth night, when we activated the door system, almost the entire herd had moved inside. In the footage, the animals walked through the entrance one after another. There was no panic. They were focused only on the food ahead. When the last one stepped inside, the door quietly closed. The entire group was contained with almost no loud noise. From a distance, we could hear the faint sound of metal vibrating as the boars moved inside the steel enclosure. As we approached, the scene became clear. Dozens of wild boars were crowded inside the trap. We quickly inspected the entire frame, tightened the locking points, and ensured the structure remained stable. In wildlife management work, experience shows that effective control does not come from rushed actions. It comes from understanding how animals move, how they search for food, and how they respond to their environment. Once those patterns are understood, control measures can be carried out in a responsible and effective way.
Favorite. Boar. They had tracked many wild boar control teams over the years, but rarely had the atmosphere been as tense as it was that night. At the edge of a silent forest, a trap was set with a single purpose: to protect the crops and the peace of the community. What happened in the moments that followed became an unforgettable memory.
Favorite. Or
That I in the thick, suffocating darkness, a herd of wild boars emerged, surrounding the steel frame like shifting shadows. Heavy impacts rang out in rapid succession. The steel mesh trembled under the raw power of their massive bodies. It all stemmed from a harsh reality. For many nights in a row, fields had been torn apart, leaving farmers sleepless with anxiety and worry. Just hours earlier, the group had split into smaller teams. One positioned themselves along a familiar trail, the path the boars often took from the forest to the farmland. The damp ground revealed deep, fresh, and densely packed footprints. There was no doubt the herd would return.
as you can see,
The chosen solution was a large circular steel mesh trap designed to capture the entire herd rather than just a few individuals. Made of reinforced, rust-resistant steel, it was built to withstand the powerful charges of animals weighing hundreds of kilograms. Previous methods had failed, capturing only a few and making the rest more cautious than ever.
Halfway, and then you hook it in this loop. To the ground, and then when the pig tries to walk out. So when we set the trap, this is the strap. You want this.
The trap system was constructed with near-perfect precision. Thick steel stakes were driven deep into the ground. Heavy rolls of mesh were stretched tight, woven densely like protective armor. Each anchor point was secured firmly with sledgehammers. There was no room for error. Even the smallest gap could allow a fully grown boar to break the entire structure. Inside the enclosure, bait was carefully placed. Fermented corn mixed with molasses, releasing a scent that spread through the damp air. Once everything was set, the forest grew eerily quiet. The night deepened. From a safe distance, the team observed through cameras. At first, only motionless trees. Then the air seemed to shift. One shadow appeared, then another, until the entire herd slowly revealed itself. More than 20 animals entered the area, moving cautiously, their snouts constantly scanning the ground. In an instant, the mechanism was triggered. The rear mesh dropped suddenly, sealing the enclosure. A deep roar echoed, followed by chaos. The ground was torn apart. Massive bodies slammed into the net in desperation. The noise was overwhelming, metal rattling, cables straining and screeching, and violent collisions erupting all at once. The largest boar charged straight at the edge. The steel bent slightly, then snapped back. It attacked again and again, but the tall barrier held firm. The anchored stakes remained unmoved, like nails driven deep into the earth. Gradually, the herd exhausted itself in futile attempts. And at that very moment, signals came in from other teams. Not just one. All traps had been successfully triggered. As they moved closer, the true size of the herd became undeniable. Muscles rippled beneath thick skin marked with deep scars. Their breath formed faint mist in the cold air. The lead boar still circled the enclosure, searching for one last escape, a living symbol of an unyielding survival instinct. But everything was under control. In accordance with regulations and humane principles, the handling process was carried out swiftly and decisively, avoiding prolonged stress. As dawn slowly broke, the forest returned to its natural stillness. Morning mist settled lightly over the damp mesh. One by one, the teams reported in. Every operation was successful. The entire herd had been contained. Villagers gradually gathered. There were no loud cheers, only relieved eyes and quiet nods. At least for another season, the harvest had been protected, and in that moment, those who had stayed awake through the long night could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The greatest threat had, for now, been pushed back.